Hello and welcome back. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. So, I wanted to share something with you. I have been watching Prince Harry's interview with Andrew Sorkin from the New York Times Deal Book Summit. And it has just been so enlightening going through the whole video and getting to see parts that, of course, there were so many headline giving pieces from his talking about him and Meghan and the divorce rumors, totally debunking those and trolling the trolls. And also him talking about raising Archie and Lilibet in the US. All of those were very attention-grabbing headlines. But there was a story here which I wanted to share with you. And it was about Harry when he was asked about whether he Googles himself, whether he reads stories about himself. And he just had such a fascinating answer. So I wanted just to share that with you for those of you who may not have reached that part in the video, or even for those of you who didn't watch the video. So let's go into this. Prince Harry got so candid. So let's give some context to this. When Harry was asked about the issue of press and social media inaccuracies, he said, quote, "I've seen stories written about myself, not exactly based in reality," end quote. Sharing it was, quote, "quite a bizarre upbringing to have what is known as a royal rota covering your every move," end quote. When it comes to the British media, the royal rota is a press pool assigned to cover the royal family. And Prince Harry admitted that the same people who were, quote, "given access," end quote, to his charity work, quote, would also write complete nonsense, end quote, about himself and his family. It was something that he had to deal with his whole life. So Sorkin asked Harry if he read the press written about him, and Prince Harry said to that, quote, "I do when I need to," end quote. So of course, Sorkin asked him, "How do you know when you need to?" And Harry said, quote, "Because there are people in my team who come to me with certain things and say, would you like us to deal with this or would you not? But I would say 97 or 98% of the utter nonsense that is written, either I don't know about it or I just have to ignore because there is actually nothing that one can do about it," end quote. So isn't that interesting? Harry says that 97 to 98% of the time he does not actually read the stuff that is written about him. And as I mentioned in the previous video, that is his way of taking away their power, because he said in the past, he's openly admitted to this, that he did used to read the stories written about him. And he talked about the fact that he got angry and frustrated, in quotes, towards the press because of not only what they were doing to him, but what they had done to his mother. And he talked about how he's gone through therapy and all of that. So he realized after a while he did not need to be, quote, angry at the press, end quote, because that was not what his mother would have wanted for him, amongst other things. So isn't that interesting? We've seen so many stories going around about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who he mentioned in the talk, especially concerning him suing the tabloid press in the UK for the hacking scandal and all that is coming up. So he said that he had noted they had been intimidation, in quotes, and retaliation, in quotes, against him, against Meghan and his children for pursuing legal action against them. So it has been cool to see that he no longer feels he has to have anger in his heart. And I will circle back to that. Something very powerful that Harry said towards the end of that video, which I think needs to get a bit more attention. So he was also asked about the Google alerts on his phone. Sorkin asked Harry if he, quote, had a Google alert, end quote, on his name. And Prince Harry said no. He said he does not actually recommend people to read about themselves. So he said this, quote, "There have been moments when I read a lot and moments when I read nothing, and I highly recommend the latter," end quote. And of course, the audience was laughing. And he went on to say, quote, "You automatically remove the power," end quote, "from the media when you stop reading that stuff about yourself," end quote. So Harry went on to explain why he didn't stop reading about himself sooner. And he said, quote, "With that element of fear comes an element of control. One of the reasons I probably didn't, I guess, remove myself from that situation sooner was that very fear," end quote. And he went on to say, quote, "Well, they control the narrative. Whatever I do or say, they can effectively control me and keep me in that space," end quote. So he spoke of that concerning his time in the royal family as a senior working royal and having the rota, having that access to him. And of course, as I mentioned before, he would see stories by the same outlets written about him that were so untrue and made him get so angry. And he said, once again, he advised the crowd, never Google yourself, in quotes. And then he was asked if he had any social media accounts or any burner accounts, in quotes. To which Harry jokingly replied, quote, "Why? Do you want to follow me? Is that what's going on?" End quote. So I've got to say this, by the way. I would highly encourage you guys to go over to the New York Times Deal Summit YouTube video and please watch it. It's titled "The Duke's Fight, Prince Harry on Mental Health, Disinformation, and His Pursuit of Justice." He was just so charming and witty and so quick on his feet with some of those answers. He was keeping Andrew Sorkin on his toes, especially as a great journalist. He was trying to press Harry and get some more information, some scoops, but Harry was on it, not giving up more than what he needed to give up. So I love that. He's such an interesting person and he has his mother's quick wit for sure. Such a sharp sense of humor and it's back and forth. It's so quick. I love that. So he was asked about the phone hacking case. Sorkin said Prince Harry described the British press as, quote, "lawbreakers," in quotes, and wondered if he thought the same about all journalists, of course, knowing he himself is a journalist. And Harry said, quote, "Well, first of all, I wouldn't be here if I thought you were one of them." Just so we're clear about that. "But we've still got 20 minutes left," end quote, Prince Harry said with a laugh, and of course the crowds were just eating it all up, laughing about that. So as I mentioned before, the main part of this video was Harry talking about him not Googling himself, him not reading about himself. But it is interesting when he talks about the press or certain segments of the press and social media who have tried to insinuate he and Meghan were having trouble in their marriage, and knowing that they've talked about him moving house. So, he is aware of some of these things, but also it is cool to know that he is also aware of the positive side, because he did talk about the spectrum of journalists. And he said this, quote, "One of the reasons he brought the claim against Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers was, quote, specifically for truth and accountability," end quote. And the Duke of Sussex spoke about media as a whole, saying, quote, "I find it hard to make peace with the fact that there are writers putting out clickbait headlines in articles that are protected because of the content of the story itself doesn't break any laws," end quote, saying, quote, "I will be if those journalists are going to ruin journalism for everybody else because we depend on it so much," end quote, Prince Harry said. So he wanted people to exercise critical thinking as they read the stories. Harry, by the way, he did mention he was not against social media bans, even for young people, or censorship, so to speak, even in the press. He wants people to read stories and have, that critical thinking applied to it, not just take it all as, some gospel truth. Harry, he does know on the flip end that there are people publishing the truth about him. He doesn't have this hatred of the press or vendetta against them. He just wants accountability. So he did mention the fact that press or certain segments of it were making a big deal about his wife Meghan and him being in different places on that day, and Harry laughed it off. And he said, quote, "You just sort of ignore it." And he did say, he felt sorry for the trolls. So he does know. There is a part of him that knows there are trolls who have been going, yes, 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 waiting for he and Meghan to have a divorce announcement. It was interesting. I saw a video on Twitter where I think it was some type of date talk show in the UK where someone literally asked, "Why do you think some people truly want Harry to fail?" And as I've heard it mentioned, they want him to go back to the UK with tail between legs, in quotes, and get to rub it in his face as they tell him, "I told you so" about Meghan. But then again, here's another year where they're closing out the year with Harry and Meghan and the children happy in the US. Harry saying it's the life that he believes Princess Diana would have wanted for him. So, it's cool. I want just to let you guys know that as much as there is the negativity, it's good to know that there is some positive stuff that does get through to the Duke of Sussex, because I know he said he does not read about the 97 or 98% of the nonsense written about him, but we've got to know that on the flip end, he is aware that there are some people who just want him to thrive. As I said, in the US, he truly does feel like he has a home. And I loved how when Andrew Sorkin asked him about him being in the US, you could tell there was no like a invested stake, their interest in Harry just remaining in the US because they love him there. There was a video that was making the rounds on Twitter or X where Harry exits the car in New York as he was going to the event at the gallery, and there was this man, he just says, "Yo, Prince Harry." It was so sweet, so endearing. So it is proof positive that Harry and Meghan are so embraced in their new home. And of course, as we know, they have the Netflix deals and so much more coming up on the horizon, and Harry's lawsuits that are coming up, as also Harry is pursuing legal action over changes to his police protection, of course, for which he did mention in the same interview that it should never have been taken away from him. And he said, interestingly, in that interview, he did mention that during the discovery or the disclosure process that he has found things that have been troubling and enlightening, in quotes. And he said, quote, "I just have to sit now and wait until April." End quote. And in fact, a lot of you have pointed out something, and this talks about the broader topic of Harry and his lawsuits, not only concerning Prince Harry's legal challenge concerning his security in the UK, but also his court case concerning the publishers of The Sun, and on and on. A lot of you have pointed out that Harry must be right now getting so much information that we truly do need to pray for him, because a lot of things are coming to light. Remember, as a by the way, just a couple of weeks ago, Harry was granted the permission to use emails between executives of the publishers of The Sun and members of the royal household in his legal claim against the organization. And, you know, he's obviously gotten to learn so much more. So we do have to keep him in prayer. Let's keep Harry and Meghan in our prayers, and we are so happy that Harry is soldiering on like the soldier he is. And it was fascinating. One more thing I want to add here. I wanted just to cap this off with when he was asked about what he would like his legacy to be, basically. Harry said that he would like people to know him for his values and certain principles and sticking to them. And he said that he believes that this is instilled in him through his 10 years of military service. And he did say this. Let's cap it off with this. Harry said, quote, "The thing that means the most to me and the thing I want to be known for is no matter what was happening around me, is that he stuck to his values and he always stayed true to that." End quote. So that was part of the fabulous conversation that Harry had. Please go over there to New York Times Events on YouTube and watch the rest of it. And I'm going to add here, for all the lovely people who I know are watching all the way to the end of the video, we do know, hush hush, that Harry does have a burner account. Remember in the Netflix doc, Meghan mentioning that as she was starting to date Harry, she did not, quote, Google him, but she did go on his Instagram account that is, you know, quite secretive, and she got to learn about him directly from Harry himself. And yeah, I think Andrew Sorkin and a lot of us would like to follow Harry on there as well. So yeah, I wanted to add that in here. Remember, hush hush. So once again, share your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. And now, before we log off, allow me here to thank those of you who support this channel financially and shout out a couple of you here by name. A very special thank you to you, TCC Sun. Words cannot express how much you mean to me. Thank you, and God bless you for being so supportive throughout so many years. You are dear, and I appreciate you for always going above and beyond in your support. I love you. Thank you. A very special thank you as well to you. Regenia means bonds. Thank you for choosing to support this channel through YouTube. You are such a blessing, and thank you for choosing to be a part of this community. Your kindness and your gentle spirit has truly touched all of us. Thank you, thank you. I love you, and I pray for God to bless you exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or think. A very special thank you right now to those of you who gave through PayPal. A very special thank you to you, Martha Jones. Thank you from the depth of my soul. I am so touched by how kind you have been and for always being thoughtful. Thank you for the continued unwavering support and for being such a tremendous boost and encouragement to me and to this channel. Thank you for the love. You are an absolute gem. I pray for God to bless you. Thank you. Once again, thank you to all who support this channel financially. To those of you who like, comment, and share, thank you. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, follow on Twitter or X. I'd love to see you there for more informal posts. Have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a blessed one.